Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH double-fisted bang bang product review. That's right, we not only have one solar generator today, but two from TogoPower. This is the same company that did the BOUGERV 330 that I reviewed last summer. Today we're checking out their Advanced 350 and Advanced 650 power stations to see if they're any good. So let's find out. So what kind of batteries are in the TogoPower? They use the same type of lithium-ion NMC battery cells that JACKERY uses, rated at 500 cycles to 80% capacity. And that doesn't mean you throw these away after 500 cycles, that means you just lose the top 20% of the battery capacity. As for size and weight, we'll go ahead and put the size at the bottom of the screen. The weight for the 350 is claimed to be 9.2 pounds, and it came in at exactly 9.2 pounds on my own scale. The 650 is claimed at 14.9 pounds, but on my scale it came in at 15.4 pounds. As for build quality, these are ABS plastic all the way around. They do have these kind of rubberized corners, which makes them kind of rugged. These are kind of rugged looking with some thick plastic on the corners. It looks like they could definitely take a fall without doing very much damage. They also have these little rubberized feet, and of course, as you probably already noticed, every single one of the in-out ports, USB, AC, 12 volt, even the input, all have these little covers on top to keep dirt and stuff from getting inside. That's pretty awesome. And they both have the same informative display that includes battery level with percentage charge, input and output wattage, and runtime to full or empty. As for inverters, the Advanced 350 comes with a 330 watt pure sine inverter with one outlet, and the Advanced 650 comes with a 500 watt pure sine inverter with two outlets. Both models support MPPT solar charging, which is obviously better than PWM. That means that when you hook up a solar panel to these, they take total advantage of the amount of amps and volts that that panel can provide. As for ways to charge, there are three ways to charge both of these units. However, I found something strange. I looked on Amazon, I looked on their website, I looked in the manuals. There's no mention for either one of these models how long they're supposed to take the charge. You think that'd be a pretty important specification to list for your product. So I had to take some educated guesses. Both models offer the same kind of charging, both are MPPT, both have a voltage range of 12 to 28 volts. The only difference is that the 350 has a maximum 80 watt charge rate and the 650 has a maximum 100 watt charge rate. So doing a little extrapolation, a little bit of experimentation, it takes about 5 to 6 hours to charge the 350 from dead, and then it takes about 7 to 8 hours to charge the 650 from dead. Now you can cut a couple of hours off that time if you only charge the 80%. Because I noticed for these models, for whatever reason, once you get to 80%, the charging rate starts slowing down. Most models, it's like 95% the charge rate starts slowing down, but for some reason on this, when I started getting up to the 80-85% mark, it started dropping to like 60 watts, 50 watts. So if you have a limited amount of time, what you can do is you can just charge them up to 80% and then use them from there. As for ways to charge, there are three. Of course, you have the 12 volt cigarette lighter. They do give you an MC4 to 8 millimeters, so you can plug in your own solar panel. And of course, they give you the AC wall charger brick, which is different depending on which one of the models that you get. As for 12 volt output types, both models do sport a 12 volt cigarette lighter with 5.5 millimeter ports. Now do note these are 5.5 by 2.5. So these aren't 5521s or 5525s. That means you need a slightly larger plug to fit in there. And both are identical. Both have the cigarette lighter with 5525 ports. These are all rated at 10 amps, and that includes the smaller barrel plugs as well. As for USB output types, both models again are exactly the same. We have three USB-A quick charge 3 ports, good for 18 watts, and then we have a single output only USB-C power delivery port that is rated at 60 watts. No silly 1990s style charging here. As for other features, both models support 10 watt wireless charging on the top, which is kind of nice. And the most important feature by far of all is that both units sport a 1 watt flashlight, and if you push the button again, The handle lights up in a little lantern style light. Now the flashlight on this is 1 watt, and then the light on the handle is a 1/2 watt. Unfortunately, there's no way to turn them both on at the same time. The most important feature though, if you actually hold the button down, it goes into the all-important SOS mode so that you can flag down those UFOs. Now, on a serious note, this is the first time I've ever seen a flashlight and a lantern in a solar generator at the same time. That is very innovative thinking there, TogoPower. I could see this feature actually being pretty handy if you're camping. Imagine if you're tent camping, you could take this around and find your stuff, because these are pretty lightweight. It's not like they're putting a flashlight on a 40-pound JACKERY or anything. But then this would work inside of your tent or, you know, at your campsite. Say you're at your campsite, you need to light up a little area around you. That's why I really like these lantern style lights a lot better than a flashlight. But this gives you both in case you can't make up your mind. As for the warranty, both of these units come with a 1-year manufacturer's warranty. And of course, we took both units into our secret laboratory where we performed all kinds of crazy experiments on them, including a double-fisted battery capacity test. Now, in order to save everybody a bunch of time, I decided to run the 12-volt test on the smaller 350 and the AC inverter test on the larger 650. This makes sense because more of a chance that people are going to use 12-volt stuff on the smaller unit and they're going to use the inverter on the larger unit. And since the internals on these are almost identical, we'll still be able to learn a lot even though we didn't do both tests on each unit. For example, the DC capacity test on the 350 came out 315 watt hours out of 346, or a very impressive 91%. And for the AC inverter test, again, another impressive result of 560 watt hours out of 634 for a good 88%. Now these numbers are above average for the industry. And if all these numbers are mumbo jumbo to you, this just means more bang for your buck. Max charge rate, take 2. The first time I did the charge rate test, I did these charged at 80%, and they both were only maxing at 60 watts. And then I turned them around on the back and it said 80 watts max for this, 100 watts max for this. So I'm like, why am I not getting the full wattage? I'm only getting 60 each at 80%. Now I usually do my charge rate tests at around 70-80%, because when the battery is just charged that much, it should use the full charge rate, but for whatever reason this doesn't. So I discharged both of these down to 55%, and now we're going to see a different result. So I have my variable voltage charger here as always, and we're going to go ahead and start at 12 volts and work our way up to the maximum of 28 volts. Each one of these support 12 to 28 volts of input charging. So it doesn't matter if it's solar panel, AC wall charger, or from a vehicle, that's the range. Okay, we have the variable voltage charger, and we're watching these numbers up here. All right, at 12 volts, we're charging at 51 watts. Let's take it up to 13.6, or a running vehicle, still at 60 watts. All right, at 14.4, we're getting 60 watts. And here we are at low-end solar panel voltage. We are maxing it out at 81 watts. So let's see if there's any difference between that and maximum voltage. Nope, it looks like even at the maximum voltage, you still get 81 watts. So that's a pretty wide range. Okay, on the 650, 12 volts, we're getting 58 watts. 14.4, 58 watts. Low-end solar panel voltage, it is 77 watts. Let's take it up to higher-end solar panel voltage. And at the upper limit, 28 volts, we're finally getting our 97 watts. So one of the upsides to the slower charging rate is that while you're charging either one of these products, it's completely silent. I'm charging right now at the maximum 60 watt rate. There are no fans, no noise of any kind. So that's at least something you don't have to worry about. So both of these units are voltage regulated at 13.2 volts. They both have 10 amp outputs for the cigarette lighter adapter. Let's go ahead and do a test and see how much power we can pull out of them. There we have it, 10 amps. It says 140 watts. Let's go ahead and switch over to the Advanced 350. There we have it, exactly the same as the Advanced 650. It supports 10 amps, and we're getting about 130 watts output. As for USB-C power delivery output, this supports 20 volts at 3 amps or 60 watts output. Now, it doesn't matter. The Advanced 350 and 650 both have exactly the same USB performance. So I now have this tester plugged into one of the quick charge ports. This is QC3, and it supports 12 volts. Let's see at how many amps. Looks like we can get pretty close to about 2 amps before the voltage starts dropping. So this looks like an 18 watt quick charge port because it seems to like 12 volts here at 1.5 amps. So nothing spectacular from the USB results. It does what it says it's supposed to do. You can see here from this symbol, that's wireless charging. Now what's interesting is that the wireless charging on this comes on as soon as you turn the unit on. It doesn't require you to turn on USB or DC. You can hear my phone dings whenever it starts charging. So if you want to stop the wireless charging, you have to actually turn the unit off. On most of these units, you have to turn on USB or DC to get the wireless charging to start, but not on this model. Now, because my phone doesn't natively charge from wireless, I actually have this little add-on pad that you can put onto your pretty much any cell phone, allow you to do wireless charging. This only supports 10 watts, so it doesn't use quick charge. It doesn't use any kind of special protocol. It just does like a basic slow charge on my phone, which is fine. I don't really do wireless charging, so to me it's not a big deal, but to have wireless charging on these little units is actually kind of nice because it does give you another option. Now it's time for the dun dun dun, dun dun dun, pure sine wave check under load. So of course we're going to use the solar degenerator for this test. We're just going to put it on low power and see what happens to the sine wave. All right, let's add a little heat. So we went ahead and applied about 120 watts to the Advanced 650. That has the larger inverter, that has the 500 watt inverter. And you can see it's holding a steady 120 volts at 60 hertz. So unlike a lot of other solar generators, this actually starts you off at 120 volts instead of 115 or 110. And that's the proper way to do it. That gives you a little more leeway if there's a voltage drop. The voltage drops a little bit, your appliance will still run just fine. So now let's go ahead and do the real test. Let's go ahead and actually push this up to 300 watts with the solar degenerator and see what happens to the sine wave. All right, I got an error too. I was pushing it right at 500 watts with the solar degenerator. Now let's cross our fingers that it comes back on. Okay, it looks like the inverter still works. You never know, sometimes these guys self-destruct instead of shutting down like they should. It's a good test. We're running it at about 400 watts and there's your sine wave. Looks pretty good. Now because this is such a small inverter, we're not going to push it any harder with this because that's usually when I burn them up. So we're going to go ahead and charge this BLUETTI, this old EB150, which has a ability to charge at 500 watts. So we'll be able to easily push this inverter to its limit and see if it can handle it. Inverter capacity test. This is where we're going to find out how far can we push the Advanced 650 with the 500 watt inverter. So instead of using the solar degenerator, since this thing's only at 500 watts, we're going to go ahead and push it through this BLUETTI using this variable voltage charger. So variable voltage charger going for the inverter and then charging the BLUETTI. So we're going to go ahead and keep an eye on the wattage coming out of the Advanced 650. As I increase the voltage, the wattage will increase, sending more power to the BLUETTI until the point it shuts down. So let's go ahead and do a little zoom in there and show you guys as I turn the dial up what happens. Okay, the number you're watching is right there. It says 275. I'm going to go ahead and keep increasing it until it shuts down. It seems right around 300 watts is when the inverter fan kicks on inside the 650. So you actually hear that come on. It's somewhat loud. It's not a disturbing sound, but it is loud. All right, we're at 400 watts. Quickly approaching the limit of the inverter. Okay, so we're at 500, 510, 550, 600. All right, well, there we go. We're getting an error message, error 1. Blinked up there for a second. I think it's warning us that we're above the limit, and there we go. It just shut down. And then it gives you an error 2. Turn the inverter back on. You just got to hit the button, and you're back in business. So let's give you an idea here of what the decibels are at this distance. I'm about a meter away from the advanced 650 while the inverter fan is running. So about 54 decibels. All right, so let's go ahead and repeat the same test with the advanced 350, which has a 330 watt inverter. Okay, just like before, we're gonna watch this number here, crank up the power and see how far we can push this 330 watt inverter. Oh, there we are immediately at 333, 350, 400, and then we get the error at 400. So it should shut down here any second. Well, any day now it'll shut down. There we go, finally. And we're able to turn the AC back on and no problem, self-recovered. We're about a meter away from the advanced 350. We'll see the difference in decibels here. This is with the inverter fan running. Now it's also running the fan on the charger, which I can't shut off, but that's not very loud. So let's see what we got here. Looks like we've got about 51 decibels. So it is quieter than the larger model. So do the advanced series support pass-through charging? Now, anything worth its weight in salt is gonna have pass-through charging, but if I don't cover this, I get asked anyway. So what I'm gonna do is break the space-time continuum, and I'm going to go ahead and use the output from the inverter on the 650 into my variable voltage charger and send that power right back into the input of the battery. Now, you're gonna break anything doing this, but it's a complete waste of power. But it's gonna show you that you can actually use AC, DC, and the USB all at the same time while charging. So let's plug it in, and to prove that the USB power delivery port's working, hear the beep, supports AC and DC pass-through charging. Okay, amplifier interference test. Now I got a lot of complaints last time that I had the amplifier too close to the inverter and I should do it X number of feet away inside of a metal enclosure on the top of a mountain. I don't have those conditions. There's a lot of electronics around, but I can tell you that when I have this plugged into the wall, right where it's at, you won't hear anything. So let's go ahead and prove that. Just to prove to you that the amplifier is in fact not making noise on its own. So there we are. We're plugged into the power plant power, shore power, and I'll take my microphone off. You can hear what it sounds like. So that is what it should sound like if there's no interference from an inverter. So let's go ahead and unplug this and plug it into both of the advanced units and see what kind of sound we get. So you can clearly hear that there is a little bit of a buzz. Now it's not as bad as the last solar generator that I tested, but there definitely is interference coming through this amplifier, and it is at least 3 feet away from the inverter. Let's go ahead and plug it into the little one and see if it's any better. Sounds exactly the same to me. So both of these inverters really aren't suited for amplifier duty. So if you're doing ham radio or you're using an amp like this for keyboards or guitar in a band or anything like that, these little generators really aren't going to suit you. You're going to want something that's got a better, higher quality inverter in it. This final test is the cooling test, or what I call the heat soak test. What I do is I run the inverter at its maximum capacity for at least 5 minutes. If it can handle at least 5 minutes, we know that the cooling in here is good. If it shuts off before then, we know the cooling's not so good. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the big boy, the advanced 650, and see if we can get it to run a 500 watt load for at least 5 minutes. And we're off. All right, at 490 watts, this shut down in 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and reduce the amount of load and try the test again. So we're gonna try it now at around 450-ish, 460 watts, 5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes on, we had no problems at 450 watts. Okay, let's go ahead and repeat that test for the smaller advanced 350. This has a 330 watt inverter. So we're gonna go ahead and run it right around 320, 325 and see if it can pass the test. And we're gonna run right around 330 watts, probably close to the 325. And we got the stopwatch going. All right, we're just passing the 5 minute threshold at 325 watts on the advanced 350. And there we go. So there you have the results. The advanced 350 actually did a little better job with its inverter than the 650. The 650 we had to run it at 450 watts to make the 5 minutes, but the advanced 350 was able to run pretty much at its 330 watt rated capacity, had no problem holding that for 5 minutes. So there's the results of the heat capacity test. And there's one other thing I discovered which I thought was kind of strange. You see right now both displays are on, but the backlighting is off. There is no actual button you can touch to turn the backlighting on. If I touch the power button just once, it shuts the unit off. Now, I can actually touch one of the AC, DC, or USB buttons to get the display to come back on, but then it turns that section on or off. So what I've been doing to get these display to come back on for my videos is that I'll just pick something that I'm not using. So say I have something plugged into the AC inverter. Let's pretend I have something plugged in and the screen went off. What I would do is I just hit USB or I'd hit DC and make the screen come back on since I'm not using those ports. But if you had this thing completely low with ports and you're charging a bunch of stuff at the same time, there's no way to get the backlighting to come back on again. You have to pick one to turn off and back on again to get that light to come up. I think that's just a weird quirk. It's not anything bad. In fact, these displays stay on for 2 minutes. So this backlighting is going to stay on for a full 2 minutes before it goes out. And once it's turned on, if you're using it at all, the display does stay on. It just the backlight part turns off. So you can clearly read this in the daytime. You just won't be able to read it in the dark unless you push one of the buttons to turn it back on. So what do I like best about these units? Well, really, there's not one thing that I like best about them. What I do like is that they are very well rounded for the size and provide all the modern features you could need at a bang-on price point. It's well built, it's tough, it's attractive, it has a great display, and nice covers for the ports too. So what don't I like about these TogoPower units? Well, I have to give you the same answer, unfortunately. There's really nothing to dislike about these. They do what they're supposed to do. They're at a good price point. They're tough and durable. But if I was gonna make one complaint, yeah, they do charge kind of slow. And to have a 500 cycle battery in 2021 is kind of out of style. However, not everyone's in a rush, and most aren't gonna care about cycle life that's gonna buy this product because they're gonna use the crap out of it for the next 3 years, beat it up, and then replace it with something else. Because let's be honest here, lithium iron phosphate is great, except for one thing. They're heavier and bulkier for the same amount of power. So that's fine if your needs are stationary. You can buy a 60-pound power station, let it sit in one place all the time, plug things into it, hook your solar up to it, and not move it around a lot. But if you're tent camping or in a small camper, or if you want to hand one of these to your children or you're elderly and you really don't want to move around anything heavy at all, well, here's your solution because it's smaller and lighter than lithium iron phosphate. Yeah, those batteries last a lot longer, but you really got to keep this for more than maybe 3 or 4 years? Probably not. So anybody who wants to gripe about the 500 cycle battery life probably isn't the primary customer for this product. Those people are going to buy a larger power station with heavier lithium iron phosphate batteries, and that's that. Product price. Now, you have two options here. You can get the lower price, probably save some sales tax, and support the channel and other small business owners by buying direct from TogoPower's website. Or you can pay a higher price and send a chunk of that money to billionaire Bezos so he can buy another super yacht, and maybe you'll get a little bit faster shipping in return. And yes, that means, of course, that I do have a special price just for you guys if you buy this directly from the TogoPower store. and that price is significantly less than on Amazon. So who are these products aimed at? Now, we've already kind of went through this. They're aimed at the ultra portable market, those that prefer small and lightweight over battery life or inverter size. Now, these two products do compete directly with the JACKERY 300 and JACKERY 500, and these are certainly more bang for the buck. You'd be giving up the better warranty and customer service from JACKERY to get one of these, and the JACKERY 300 can charge actually quite a bit faster than the Advanced 350. However, the JACKERY 500 is 2 years out of date at this point, and just about anything can beat it nowadays. I'm actually really surprised they haven't replaced that product yet, and they're still asking $450 for it. With these TogoPower units being more robust and less expensive, they're kind of no-brainers for the camping and outdoorsy crowd. Note that neither one of these units are designed for heavy kitchen appliance work. You're not going to run microwaves, you're not going to run air conditioners, and unless you have a really, really small coffee maker or a blender under 500 watts, don't expect to run those kinds of appliances. These units were meant more for running like 12-volt refrigerators, CPAP machines, laptops, lights, fans. Run a projector outside, that's a good use for one of these. Doing things like charging batteries, cell phones, and tablets. These are kind of small fry stuff. As for recommended solar, I'd recommend a 100 to 120 watt solar panel for either one of these units. You can go bigger if you want because this does have a 28 volt upper limit, which means you can put a 200 watt solar panel on this. And if you're looking for a solar panel like that, just go to hobotech.tv/Amazon, click on solar kits. That'll take you down to all the solar panels I reviewed and recommend. You'll find lots of them, different sizes, different weights, different price ranges that'll work with these units. You got to keep it under 200 watts and 28 volts. That's really the only requirement. So if you're interested in either the Advanced 350 or Advanced 650, links are in the description below, along with a promo code that works only on the TogoPower store. If you decide to get these on Amazon, there is no discount. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below, and if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
And you might be wondering, why does this video look so much better than all your other videos, HOBOTECH? Well, here's your answer. I did a little something for myself for hitting 100,000 subscribers.
RV Golf Guy, Medic Audio Repair, Andrew, Von Rupp, Richard Cardano,